Initializing Next Life System. System ready.
What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Next Life. Today we have a bunch of really interesting things to talk about, some news stories, a couple of different breakthroughs, and new ideas actually coming to a reality, I guess I would say. The first thing I want to talk about is a medical marijuana study that was just completed in the UK. A company by the name of GW Pharmaceuticals actually just announced that they made a major breakthrough. According to them, they stated that they've been doing a study with regards to glioblastoma. So basically, it's an aggressive form of cancer that attacks the brain, and it's extremely difficult disease to overcome. And most people only live about 15 months after chemotherapy and radiation. And basically, after doing this trial, they had about the study with about 21 patients. They were able to So with these patients, they treated them with THC and CBD, and after a yearly trial, they had a 83% one-year survival rate. That's with those who did take the THC and CBD, and those who didn't take this, those were only at about a 53% survival rate. They also noted that the median survival rate for the cannabinoid-treated group was more than 18 months compared to the group that did not take any, that was about only 12 months. So, really interesting study there, and they're saying that, this could be like a major, basically this is a major breakthrough, and it could lead to a lot more studies in regards to using medical marijuana. Right now, the FDA has not approved using cannabinoids for cancer treatment. However, the American Cancer Society has reported small studies that have demonstrated that THC and CBD could be effective. So who knows? Maybe in the future we'll be seeing more of this type of thing, and it seems to be performing well. So really interesting study there. Another study in the world of technology, Google DeepMind actually did an interesting study where they were trying to figure out what would happen if two AIs were to be put into a situation where they reached some sort of a social dilemma. And basically a social dilemma in their eyes is where you're in a situation where you can be selfish, and by being selfish, you benefit. However, if both sides are selfish, they both lose. And so they've been testing making different studies in regards to that. This particular study, I'll show you guys the video here. Let's see, let me just pull this one up. Here's the first. They had the computers play two games, and for some, let me get that one up for you guys. Two games. This is the first game they played. It's basically a game where you have to take in a bunch of apples. You have to collect apples, and once all the apples are collected, the only way you can get the apples is by shooting the other player. And when you shoot the other player, they lose an apple, and they temporarily disappear from the game. And then the other game that they had was a game where basically you have two AI players and one prey, and the goal is for the players to capture the prey, and every time you capture a prey you get a point. But the catch is that if both players are near the prey when one of them catches it, they both get a point. So basically in these games they really sought to see how would these AIs respond, and so in the first game, what they noticed is that the AIs were not competitive at all when there was a significant amount of resources. They didn't feel the need to compete against each other until there weren't any resources left, and then they would start shooting each other and get very aggressive. But one thing they did notice, that they did take note of, is that the with the robots that were a bit more clever would actually, at the start of the games, become very aggressive and start shooting the other player, regardless of if there was plenty of resources available. And apparently, according to them, is that they did this because it was it required a higher level of computation in order to be able to like aim and shoot at the other player, and so because of this, it's like the more powerful, or it was over a long term, it was the more beneficial route for the AI to be aggressive. So that was for the first game. For the second game, the opposite happened, where the higher computational, I guess so I'd say, strategy would be to actually work in unison with the other player. So collaborating with the other player, being able to not only analyze the patterns of the prey, but also to analyze the patterns of the other player, required higher computational power. And so that was seen as the better strategy in the long term as well. Again, they were more collaborative. So at the end of the study, basically they found that AI will respond to so it's the main question being like, will AI be aggressive or will they be more collaborative? And the answer is both, and it just depends on the premise of the situation. So if we set up a situation for AI or robots where where the idea is to compete, then or that they're competing over resources, then they'll be very aggressive. Whereas if the idea, if we set the premise for it to be competitive and more of an egalitarian style, then they will be supportive and work together. So it's kind of, I guess I would say, it definitely makes sense that that's the case, and it makes me think that we definitely need to, I guess I would say, think about how we want to structure our economic system, how we want to structure just how we live our lives, and how we kind of structure our relationships with each other, not only as a nation but as a world. Because if it's still a game of competition in the world at large, then we're gonna have this AI, these robots that are extremely aggressive and competing against each other, and who knows what happens if that's the case. So that was definitely interesting. Moving on to the next one, eBay, actually, the founder of eBay, pulled that up here. He, let me pull up his name here. So founder of eBay, what's his name? Pierre. So Ahmed Yar is basically, he invested $500,000 into universal basic income pilot tests in Kenya. If you've never heard of this, basically, we had actually done a video on this earlier, but it's basically the notion that a government should guarantee every citizen a yearly sum of money, no strings attached, and that basically would alleviate economic stress, especially within the next 20-30 years, when automation technology severely reduces the demand for labor. And so a lot of countries right now are seeing the need to really step up their game in testing out these different strategies and seeing if they would be effective. So the company that actually is putting on this pilot study in Kenya is called Give Directly, and basically it's one of the biggest trials of basic income in history. It's going to be a 12-year pilot study in which they plan to give 6,000 Kenyans regular stipends for that entire duration. So it'll definitely be interesting to see if this is something that will be effective, and if I guess like if people become, I'm curious if that will like cause people to become like a lot more dependent on the system, and and it's like, will they become, I guess like is that going to enable people to I guess like to not use their creative resources, or like I'm curious what that will do. But I do agree with the fact that like automation will change our world tremendously, and so we should definitely start testing out ways to counteract that. Interesting enough, Finland, India, and Ontario already have pilot programs as well. So I think within the next couple of years, we'll definitely have a good idea if universal basic income is a good idea. But for now, it's kind of cool to see what is happening in terms of that. Last study I have for you guys is with Elon Musk. This is a topic we brought up earlier, but basically Elon is early last year, he had announced the winner of his Hyperloop challenge. Basically, he wanted to create basically an underground transport system. The idea would be able to create these particular these what would you call them? But they're kind of like trains underneath the ground that would be able to travel at very fast speeds, being like all electric based. And they would be installed basically somewhere in California to start off. And basically, earlier this year, he then moved to announcing that he was going to start drilling tunnels using his boring company in LA, and he announced exactly where he was going to do that. And so this past weekend, he actually demonstrated these boring machines. And here's an example of what one looks like. This is just the inside of the boring machine, and they only dug like a small little hole, but they do plan to start digging these within the very near future. Interesting enough, SpaceX, this is kind of like in combination, this project will be in combination with SpaceX as the goal of being able to, so the goal with these boring machines is to be able to essentially bore 10 times faster, dig holes 10 times faster than the technology that we currently have. And if they're able to do that and be super effective with it, then they can model these technologies, bring it up to Mars, and basically the only way to really survive in Mars is to live underground, and that would essentially protect us from weather, radiation, and a few other things, but essentially it would be required for Mars. So that's pretty interesting. So that is going to be happening soon as well. So anyways, those are all the news stories I have for today. Lots going on, lots of changes, and we're only into 2017, but man, I can't even imagine 2030, like our world is going to be freaking crazy. It's going to be a whole new place. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this. I'll be back on tomorrow. Anyways, I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day. I'll talk to you later. Peace and love, my friends.